When there's a cyber threat facing New York, one of the nation's top targets, authorities turn to this man. As special agent in charge of cyber operations for the FBI in New York, Leo Taddeo leads investigations into security and financial cyber attacks. It's a tough job.
The odds are, unfortunately, in favor of the hacker at this point. We're trying to change that.
70% of companies don't even know they're being hacked, according to a recent Verizon survey.
For many of these networks, the breach goes undetected for months at a time.
To keep up, the federal government is expanding its efforts. That means tapping agents like Taddeo, who spent his career fighting organized crime in La Cosa Nostra, recruiting computer experts, and building out the FBI's cyber forensics department.
We have to adapt. We have to constantly keep up with the threat. And what you saw in the CART program is a significant investment in our forensic capabilities.
Hello? We got a behind-the-scenes look at the FBI's Computer Analysis Response Team, CART, where agents and technical experts around the nation support about 10,000 investigations a year. You're taking hard drives and cell phones and turning them into data you can understand?
Correct. And we present that for the agents to look through to see if there's anything relevant to their cases in there.
That growing threat means a growing amount of data.
We have our stuff stored in the servers in this rack, and we have approximately 80 terabytes worth of data storage in this rack here.
To put that in perspective, all the books in the Library of Congress comprise about 10 terabytes of data. Nationwide, the FBI now processes over 10,000 terabytes a year. In New York, the FBI's cyber unit is moving into larger offices this month, linking technology specialists with agents to tackle the novel challenges of the cyber threat. Sean Henry worked on FBI SWAT teams before serving as assistant director of the FBI's cyber unit in Washington.
In the late 80s and early 90s, when we responded to a bank robbery, the pool of suspects of those who may have robbed the bank was the number of people who were in the vicinity of the bank at the time it was robbed. Today, when a bank is robbed electronically, the pool of suspects is limited to the number of people with a $500 laptop and an internet connection.
It's a fundamental change not only for catching criminals, but for establishing the legal basis to prosecute them. In traditional law enforcement, the victim and the criminal perpetrator are in the same place. This is different, right? The perpetrators here are typically not at the location of their crimes.
That's exactly right. The internet and the interconnectedness of all of these systems, private and public, make it possible to commit crimes from almost anywhere in the world.
That espionage includes efforts by North Korea, China, and Iran. And while ISIS recently hacked social media accounts, authorities don't believe the terror group can currently pull off a cyber attack on its own.
But their efforts to acquire that threat and to acquire those capabilities is increasing every day.
But some believe ISIS wants to.
They are calling for electronic jihad. They are calling for the next generation of terrorists to use their technical capabilities to target the infrastructure.
It's a matter of, can they get the tools, and what would the target be?
Terrorists can also outsource the job. Mary Galligan's a former terror and cyber agent at the FBI.
Hacker for hires is what we're talking about. You can sell certain tools for a couple of $100s. You can sell your actual services for a couple of $1,000s. It depends on getting the right tool with the right knowledge of what it is that you're attacking.
While the feds track those national security threats across the globe, they also take action against international conspiracies. One FBI counter-cyber case led to over 102 coordinated arrests around the world, a massive strike against Blackshades, a new hacker technology.
In the case of Blackshades, they specifically designed and marketed this tool so that it could be installed without the owner knowing it.
Hackers used the tool to attack or hijack the computers of over 700,000 people worldwide, which the FBI tracked.
They bragged about it. They had a customer support section that if you had trouble getting it onto your victim, they would help you with it.
Some of those individuals were prosecuted in their home countries, others extradited to the United States. Do you think those suspects ever expected that in logging on and engaging in this behavior, they would end up in a U.S. court?
No, I think they thought they were safe behind the borders of jurisdictions that traditionally may not have cooperated with us.
Other cyber conspiracies cause tangible physical violence, and it's all for sale on a part of the internet most people never see, the dark web.
You saw the FBI recently take down a case called Silk Road, where you could go onto the dark web and buy guns, drugs, assassins for hire.
Federal prosecutor Preet Bharara takes these FBI cases to court. This year, he won a conviction against Ross Albright, a 30-year-old techie who now faces up to life in prison for running the Silk Road online portal, which Bharara calls a criminal bazaar.
There are a lot of different kinds of cybercrime. The crime that you mentioned, which was basically an open-air bazaar on the internet for the sale of all sorts of terrible things like narcotics and like child pornography and other bad things, is a little bit like just a new forum for an old crime.
And while many of the crimes are as old as time, theft, violence, and terror, their virtual expansion keeps law enforcement working overtime. The president is calling on Congress for new tools in this fight.
I urge this Congress to finally pass the legislation we need to better meet the evolving threat of cyber attacks.
When the chief executive of the United States raises cyber security to that level, Americans should sit up and take notice.